everybody. Okay, so I know I said I was going to try and do this once every week or two, and obviously it's been like more than that. So I apologize for the delay in another video, but I have a ton to update you guys on. First things first, I'm probably going to do 2 different videos today, so don't be surprised. It's a lot of footage. Sorry. But I promised somebody in the comments, and then there were a couple people who reached out to me, both here and at home, who were asking me about why I picked Poland and coming to Poznan University of Medical Sciences instead of somewhere in the States. So I want to start with that, and then depending on how long this video is, then we can either split it up into another one, or I can keep rambling on into this one and make it really, really, really crazy long. So some background into this. I never thought that I was going to go to medical school at all, period, whatsoever. I thought that that was only for, like, I don't know, people who weren't me, and that if you were a physician, then your kid was more likely to be a physician, but, like, if you weren't, then, like, why would you be? How could you be? How were you qualified? I don't know. It's some really weird way to look at it, but that's how I looked at it. So I went to school. I got my degree in physiology, mostly because I got exposed to a kinesiology class early on, and I was absolutely fascinated by the body and how your body could work with your mind. Like, for instance, there was this fact that I learned in one of my classes. Actually, Jeff Messer, hopefully you're not mad that I'm throwing your name out there, but he taught a kinesiology exercise science 101 class at Mesa Community College in Arizona. And I still remember one of the first things that he said was, like, if you were to work out, say you're working your abs or your core or something, but then you think about your muscle contracting and, like, doing all that work while you're working it, it actually works harder than if you weren't thinking about it. And I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever heard. And so that was, like, the initial thought that made me really want to learn more about kinesiology and the study of physiology and how your brain could work with your body and do all these really cool things. And how your body could do really cool things on its own. So I was fascinated really early on. I went to do the kinesiology program at ASU, and they told me they were disassembling it. They weren't. They were moving it downtown, but that's okay. God's got a plan, so there's a reason, I guess, that I thought it was going away. So I ended up transferring to U of A for their physio program. I won't get onto a topic about ASU versus U of A for all my friends in Tempe who will probably stab me for anything that's anti-ASU, so I won't. They're both great universities. I'm very proud to be a part of both of them for a couple of years, but got my degree in physiology. My parents told me that it'd be a really good career, or becoming a pharmacist would be a really good plan, and that would be a great career. It's clean, and it made good money, and it wasn't a lot of schooling. And then lots of life happened, and we won't get into the details of that, but for one reason or another, I wasn't really able to go to school. I wasn't able to go to more schooling at the time. So I somehow, through some fate and some other life experience, I ended up getting a job with Dignity Health in Arizona, and I worked there for a total of 4 years before transferring here. And it has been the most rewarding time of my life. But during that time, oh man, I really should plan these videos out before I start talking, because I have so many things I want to say, and I don't know how to say them in an organized way at this point, because I don't plan this, but we're just going to go with it, and hopefully you guys are okay with me thinking in, like, groups of spaghetti thoughts. But, okay, so I started at Dignity Health. I got brought in as a physician recruitment coordinator, and so what that basically meant is that as we were bringing physicians in for interviews, I was helping coordinate everything from their hotel stay and their rental car and their flights, all the way down to, who are they meeting, what day, what time, how are we getting them between meetings, who are they meeting with, am I the one taking them between them so they're not getting lost in the hospital, you name it. By the way, if you hear anything in the background, there's construction happening right outside of our dorm room, so it's kind of loud. I don't know how much of it's going to transmit, but anyways. So we coordinated like 162 interviews or something like that over the course of 6 months. It was something absolutely ridiculous. It was not a normal number. We were hyper productive in that department. There were 2 recruiters and myself at the time. Super duper duper rewarding. And within not only, I think I was there for a month before some of the executives and directors brought me into a room, and they're like, oh, hey, by the way, you're going to actually manage the onboarding for all of our new physicians and all of our new staff. And I was like, I'm going to what? It's like, hey, you remember my interview when I told you this was my first job in healthcare? Like, I don't know if you want me to be doing that. And they're like, you know what? No, like, we know your personality. Like, we think you can totally handle it. You're fine. You're going to be fine. If you need us, we're here, but figure it out. And so through some really great teamwork and amazing people that I got connected with at Dignity, we launched a new orientation for physicians, for staff, started managing that. I promise you I'm going to get to my decision about coming here eventually. I just think this all works together, so it's really cool to explain how God's worked through my experience at Dignity and then how that's influenced my decision to get into medicine, as well as some of the influences that got me to Poland specifically. So, disclaimer. So, worked as a physician recruitment coordinator for less than a year. I started in October of 2015, or fall in 2015, and then I was there until probably the summer. And our recruiter, who assisted with some physician recruitment, but mostly was doing advanced practitioners, so nurse practitioners, physician assistants, certified nurse midwives, she ended up taking another position within Dignity, moved away, and then our COO basically sat me down at the time. He was amazing. His name is Vance. Vance, somehow you're watching this. You've been one of my favorite bosses I've ever had in my life. Don't forget it. He sat me down and he's like, hey, here's the deal. We know you're taking your master's right now, and like we see a lot of initiative in you and like the projects you've taken on, how well you've executed them. I have lots of really nice compliments, and was like, I would like you to take this role. So I said absolutely, and within like a week or two or something like that, the previous person moved on. I started recruiting advanced practitioners. Was in that role for another not even a year. Really enjoyed it. Started to feel like I was actually kind of mastering something. I was doing okay, maybe this is biased, but I'd like to think I was doing a really good job. Thank you, Jesus, for all the skills, talents, all that fun stuff, and all the opportunities. But we really had it down to like a well-oiled machine. It was working out really well. We were hiring advanced practitioners. Everyone was happy. And then my old boss left, and a new COO came into the company, and he was awesome as well. But he basically sat me down and he's like, we're not using you to your fullest potential. I like you, and there's something about you that makes me want you to do bigger things than just recruitment, which arguably I love recruitment. I think it's one of the most important things that a medical group can do. I think he agrees. I think everyone else does as well. This all comes full circle. But at the time, the compliment was that I was being underutilized for what my potential could be. So I got sort of like involuntarily promoted into a new position. They called it a support services consultant. It was a position they literally created that was made to be very vague. And it was designed applicably so because we had a lot of needs of the medical group that couldn't really be met by a specific department. And so this was like a catch-all. We always made a joke that we were directors of miscellaneous duties as assigned. And I've never had I've never had a season more challenging in my life that was so rewarding than the time that I was in that role. I don't know if this is too much to be saying. I hope I don't offend anybody, but I'm going to do it anyways. Please don't take it anything other than with love and grace, because that's what I mean it. But there were personality types, and there were struggles, and there were just so many days I did not think I was good enough in that role. And it had nothing to do with what I was attempting to do, because sometimes there would be weeks that I worked 40 hours, and sometimes there'd be weeks that I worked 65. And it was usually the 65-hour weeks that I felt like I was scum. But in that time, I look back, and it was really, really challenging for someone like me, because I like to have a list and be like, here are the things that I'm doing, and I like to tangibly see what I'm accomplishing. And it was very much a period of time where I was involved in marketing, like traditional marketing, like making actual marketing materials and promotional materials, like posters and flyers and hosting events and I don't know, normal things like design of like fonts and colors, and just to make sure everything was brand appropriate and that it was like under this big umbrella of what like the corporation wanted us to do, and also look professional and gave us like a good appearance to patients, to other physicians, to other organizations. It was honestly really rewarding for being such a seemingly small task. And so did actual marketing. I was also part of market development. So we had an incredible team of market development reps that basically went and they sent me out to, I want to say Stockton, but I feel like I'm Merced, Stockton. I don't know. I really should know this. I went somewhere in California near Modesto for training for a week with lawyers and other reps and just some really incredible, smart people who walked us through Stark laws and other limitations and guidelines of like how we could market our physicians effectively in the community and make connections. Essentially, you're trying to generate referrals, but you're not just saying like there's no quid pro quo, words are hard, where like you know, if you refer to us, we'll give you money, or if you refer to us, we'll refer to you, or you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. There was none of that. It was more of like, hey, we want you to know that we're out here. We're part of the Arizona Care Network, aka the network that you're in, that like we all need to be able to refer to due to a whole bunch of reasons. We just want you to know we exist. Here's what we offer. Here's how we offer it, so that you know we're in the community. And if you like need us, we're here. And it seems really silly, but it's super important to establish good relationships in the community. So that was part of my role. That was really, really fun. What else? Okay, I actually assisted with physician recruitment for the University of Arizona Cancer Center. I got to work with their VP, Marsha Gruber-Page. I don't know if I'm allowed to be mentioning people's names, but I'm doing it, and hopefully they're fine. She's an incredible woman. I have no idea to this day how she keeps track of what she keeps track of and how she keeps track of it. But she is the most... It's like a type A perfectionist mixed with genius when it comes to working with her from an administrative perspective. I'm kind of biased, but she was incredible. And so I got to assist them with arranging interviews for their physician candidates in all oncology departments. Thankfully, I kind of got to work with Marsha throughout the 4 years in different roles. So like as a coordinator, and then again as a recruiter / consultant person, whatever I was. Really, really fun. In addition to that, we also did some marketing, market development, physician recruitment. There were some operation support stuff. So like when we rolled out a new EMR, we transitioned all of our outpatient clinics from all scripts to Cerner, which was what we had in the hospitals. So then everything would link better. There's a whole reason I'm sure that they had. We won't go into that. It doesn't matter. But when we went with that rollout, we basically ended up deploying everybody from our suite, including us, into different clinics to try to help facilitate that in some way, shape, or form. That was a really enriching experience. What else? I don't know. A little bit of everything. I feel like I'm forgetting some stuff here, but the main gist of it is in that role, I got to meet a whole lot of physicians. I got to do a whole lot of things that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do. And usually when you do, like if you work for a large healthcare organization, especially one as large as Dignity, you would assume that like you have a well-defined role and this is what you do and you don't operate outside of it, and something else is someone else's job. And as straining as it was for someone like me who likes to pick up everything, and if I see an opportunity to fix something, to do it and to do it really well, because I had a tendency to overextend myself, it was incredible because I got to see a whole bunch of different pieces of this organization from a different perspective than most people really had the opportunity to, and I am so sincerely grateful. I'm sure they were happy too, because I'd like to think I did a pretty decent job, but just overall, it shaped me as a human being and really has prepared me for this journey in medicine like I could have never imagined. So anyways, it's neither here nor there. And then after some time, I really honestly got to a point where it wasn't really sustainable for me, where I felt like I was juggling too many plates in too many different departments, and I always felt like something was about to drop, and I didn't want to actually let anything drop. And so, and I didn't also want to work 65 hours a week forever. And so we ended up having a vacancy for a senior physician recruiter position where that would be all of my time would be devoted to recruitment and also like resident retention, but like recruitment of physicians, residents, like one box, one very big, amazing, high pressure box, because it was extremely important, but it was one box of like, this is what your job is. And it was tangible because you could look and say like, this is how many specialties I've been recruiting for. This is how many, like, these are how many candidates I've placed over the past however long. And so you could actually see like, hey, I'm being productive and I can track it and I know I'm doing a good job because the numbers prove it. And like, that's all I wanted at that point, honestly. And so for the last, 9 months or so that I was with Dignity, I transitioned onto this team of incredible recruiters and coordinators and a sourcer, Julie. In Sacramento, I got to visit them every 2 months because my team was in Sacramento. I was a remote employee in Arizona, still working with my team. And so I was in, I didn't change offices, nothing, working with the same incredible people, but I got a chance to really partner in, build some bridges between two incredible teams doing two very similar things but in different ways, and like really streamline a process that I cared about more than probably anything since I had been at Dignity. I was really passionate about making recruitment really, really great. And so with Caitlin and the entire team of recruiters and Dr. Bethencourt and Dr. Spivey and literally everybody on my floor, including people who weren't on my teams, our project manager, Steph, literally kept me going when things were really stressful and scary. Probably one of the best times of my life. Super productive, really impactful, changed me as a person. Now, all of this was just a giant rant to one, say hi guys, I miss you. Thank you for making me who I am and for having such a huge impact on me. But out of all of this, there's one event that I really liked putting on, probably more than I'd like to admit because it was super stressful, but it was really, really rewarding when everything came together and you had a night where physicians get together to laugh and celebrate like a year of success and a lot of humor. And that is our annual reception and debate. So what we do is when I started Dignity for the first 2 or 3 years that I was there, we had an annual event. And what we did is we would we invited all the attending physicians the first couple years, and then we expanded it and we invited all residents and some students too, I think. I don't know if it might just be residents and attendings. Sorry if we left students out, but anyways, we'd invite them all to this event. We had, we actually served alcohol, which was pretty rare for us, but we wanted to make it really social and non-stressed and like separate from work. So they served alcohol and food. We ended up picking, how do I say this nicely? A topic that was slightly taboo in that current landscape. And then we would bring it up and talk about it, and we would have a debate. So we would get 3 physicians on one side, 3 physicians on the other. Later we added some admin, anything. Anyways, we would get these teams together. There'd be a pro-con side, and we would have them literally debate some topic in front of each other. And over the years, we had like, are we an integrated medical group? And we fought as to, proof as to how we are and proof as to how we aren't. Probably the funniest and most volatile and touchy one we ever did is, would you like to be a patient here? And it's just, people get so creative and so funny. And to get like a bunch of really competitive physicians who have been competitive their entire life, like to get to where they are in a room to debate each other to try to win a really fun topic battle. I don't even know how to describe this. Words are really hard. I'm very tired. Just honestly, probably some of the funniest times I've ever had. But one of the very first receptions that we had, Dr. Michael Hibner, who I know for a fact won't get mad about me mentioning him, was on one of the debate teams. And in addition to having a whole bunch of jokes and really livening up like all of our discussions between him and Dr. Kaplan, he had asked me about like how I got to the job that I was in and what I really like, basically, is this what I planned and like what did I want to do? I said, well, to be really honest with you, and this was from the bottom of my heart, sincerely meant, which hopefully you figured out by now, I said, I wish I was a physician. And I remember thinking when I was at Dignity, seeing all the physicians that I worked with, I was like, this is what I wish I was doing, but it's too late. Like, I'm too old. I know. I had my chance. I should have done it. I didn't. And it wasn't until I started working with some of our residents a little bit later that I was like, if I start school right now, I'm going to be exactly the age they are, exactly where they are right now. What is wrong with me? Why am I not doing this if this is really what I want to do? And so while I was at Dignity, I got my master's in business. As soon as that finished, I sat down and said, what do I really want to do, right? And I revisited these thoughts and I was like, I want to be a physician. I was like, oh, whoa, all right. Like, you just got your freedom back in life. Like, you have some time. Maybe you have a little lofty of a goal right now. You should calm down. Like, that's a really big investment. And so I waited a couple months. I sat back down. I had another conversation. I prayed a lot. And I said, hey, God, like, what do you want me to do with my life? I was like, you should be a physician. I was like, I'm not going to get away with this. So I called Dr. Hibner and I was like, hey, can we get lunch? And he's like, sure. And I was like, you're far enough removed from like my current team that I work with because I don't want them thinking that I'm flaking on them or leaving them, but I really want to be a physician. Do you have any advice for me? And he said, well, like, are you sure you really want to do this? And I was like, yeah, well, yes, I'm sure. I was like, but I know I'm a non-traditional student. I don't have this 4.0 GPA. I was in a scribe for 2 years while I was doing research in some lab preparing for this while like my parents footed the bill for all my college so that I could get a whatever. I don't know. I'm just making things up and kind of being judgy. If you were a traditional student, more power to you. I'm not that cool. So I was like, I know that I'm older. I'm coming out of a career. Like, what should I do? Where do you think I should apply? And he said, you should really, truly look at some international programs. There are a few that are really reputable, that are recognized and respected by the states, or at least like not disrespected by the states. Because for those of you who don't know, some foreign medical graduates are treated a little bit differently in the United States because they went to a foreign school, because sometimes often the perception is that you went where it was easier because you couldn't get in the US, so you went somewhere else. There are a whole lot of camps. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying it exists. And so for me, I wasn't even thinking foreign medical school. I just was like, well, I'm going to go to the US because that's what I'm supposed to do, and I'm a US citizen. And he said, you should look at some other programs. He goes, there's one specifically in Poznan. Look, I'm actually finally, after 19 minutes, we're definitely doing 2 videos. It was like after 19 minutes, I'm actually kind of hinting at what I said I was going to tell you about. So I guess there's one in Poznan. It's in Poland. He's like, you're Polish. You should really consider it. And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. We talked about some other things. I kind of had some sort of game plan in my head. I go to leave this conversation, right? And actually, I'm messing up on the timetables here. I was still finishing up my master's when we had this conversation. And I remember him saying, well, why don't you just apply now? And I said, no, I started my master's. I want to finish it. And then I'm going to go. And he's like, nobody does this. Why would you do that? And I was like, I guess I started it and I want to finish what I start. Like, this is going to help me if I come back. And if I ever end up working in, like, as a physician, especially for an employed group or somewhere where, like, I'm working as a dyad partner to someone in operations, I want to be able to understand why we're making decisions and, like, both perspectives so that we could do it better. So I ended up meeting up with him like 6 months later. So I graduated with my master's in 2017, and I was kind of throwing this around in the air, and I kept thinking, like, do I really want to go back to med school? Like, is this something I want to do, right? The internal struggle is, like, nonstop until you just decide. And so then it was January 26th, my mom's birthday, 2018, and I was like, yep, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm done waiting. I know I want to do this. I keep thinking about it, and the answer is still the same.